welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. We are here with our In Too Deep episode of wide receivers. It is time for part 3.
Diligence.
Tier 6, 7, and 8.
Due diligence for wide receivers.
Yes.
Fuck every one of these guys.
I want you guys to tell me when we're in too deep.
Because we're in too deep, and I'm trying to keep.
It was a producer's reference, but okay.
Well, we're doing some 41.
I got the transition.
Which is better.
All right, so this episode is going to be all the guys who were on lists that said, or we saw people hyping them up, or they showed up to the combine, and we decided that we had to at least watch their film, and we saw either way too many red flags, poor tape, or just a variety of other issues that caused them to drop them down this far. We're going to explain why. Some of these guys you may never heard of. Some of these guys are actually some decently well-known names that you guys will want to know.
Or being hyped up by other people in the fantasy community that we're just not as high on.
We're looking at one person in particular on this list.
Uh-huh.
All right, but before we do that, let's hit a beer preview.
Beer Fuel.
And on today's episode from Collective Arts Brewing, we have Ransack the Universe Hemisphere IPA. Collective Arts' second time on the show. I think they were on around episode 80-ish, I think.
They were. It is their second time on the show. They do some cool stuff with their can art. Every can art, I believe, has a different picture. And then I think they have an app where you can pull it up and it like relates to music or something along those lines. So they're one of those breweries that does some good stuff as far as promoting local artists. So that's something that's cool about them. And I can already tell you this beer is a lot better than the last one I had from them.
Yeah, the last one, it wasn't terrible, but it was kind of meh.
It was very alcohol-y.
I'll tell you this. I don't remember it. I can already say that's not a good thing.
This one is much better, but we'll give you a full review of that after we get through some of the players here. And then also, the Instagram account should have these on them.
I will be putting them up there. Sorry,
I feel like we've heard this for weeks.
I know.
And weeks. And
we're just going to keep calling him out on air until he does it.
I know.
I'm down with that. Hey, before we get started, though, guys, this is our draft preview series. This is just past a year. This is where we kind of kick off the new season every season. And we want you to come join us during the first round of the NFL draft. We will be live streaming on YouTube. You'll be able to interact with us there. We'll be giving commentary on every pick, how the need fits, if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense. So be sure to check that out. Tune in. If you don't want to listen to Mel Kiper talk out his ass, turn us on and hang out and ask questions. We'll interact with you on air. We're going to be doing some drinking games. We'll have some fun stuff going along with that. So be sure to tune into that. Beer Fueled Fantasy Football on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you've already got it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, what are you waiting for?
Please have a beer in hand so you can join us when we try to predict where draft players go, and by pick 5 we're fucking hammered because we were wrong.
Yep, that happens pretty much every year. Subscribe on Beer Fueled Fantasy Football for Twitter. We are at Beer Fueled FF individually. I am at Nick Sparts. Across the table from me is Dan Thury.
At Thury BFF. What's going on, crew?
And to my left is Christopher Hopper.
Wearing the black V-neck and the Cubs hat at Hot BFF with 2 Ps.
Wearing the same thing he wore on Monday.
He's turning around for this episode.
That's when I mean business. My hat goes backwards.
This is not the episode you should mean business for.
He's going to keep the list.
Oh, I mean business for this episode. I love due diligence episodes because they're terrible.
All right. Well, if you want to get in too deep, let's go ahead and jump into some rookies.
Draft preview.
And up first is a guy I actually saw getting a lot of hype in the mock drafts we were doing, but that has slowed down in the last week or two, and that is Kiki Kuti out of Texas Tech.
Circle, circle, dot, dot. Now I got my cootie shot.
Oh, you just want to do that so bad, didn't you?
He's been sitting on that for weeks.
Actually, no, I just thought about it before we started the episode that cootie was kind of like cooties, the things you got from girls in kindergarten. Now it's just herpes.
And it never goes
Thanks,
away.
Vegas.
But like cooties, this is something I'm also not wanting to get on my fantasy team.
What about herpes?
Do you think cootie... I don't want herpes on my
Well,
fantasy team
like-
either. Do you think cootie was really like kindergarten way of teaching us about herpes?
Maybe?
Huh.
Shower thoughts?
Anyways,
swear to God, I'm not stoned.
more interesting than...
As far as we know.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys have been with me the last couple hours, so...
So this is the guy, he's got some solid tape, and on film he flashes some decent athleticism, but his size is way too small. He comes in at 5'10", 180 approximately. Route tree is very limited.
He had 3 routes, I think.
Yeah,
He had
basically.
a vertical and breaking slant and wide receiver screen. Go.
Yep. That was it.
That's your entire
He was relatively productive last year, but it was at A&M, so not great there. Quick and agile. He can blow by defenders, and he bounces off tackles like a running back, so he does have some ability in the screen game. But, ultimately, he's another one of a glut of slot receivers that's undersized, and I'm not a fan.
And he's not even a true slot receiver where you might be able to get some PPR value. He's basically just a Deshaun Jackson light.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't even have the size to go with the speed.
Yep. There's one Rosenby punt returner. At least he finished out, he was number 1 in both receptions and yards out of the slot this year. So at least he's got the production out of there. But as we just said, he's, it's an air raid offense with 2 quarterbacks in both Mahomes and with, Nick
Shimanek.
his last 2 quarterbacks. Shimonik. You can actually get him the football deep.
Yep.
Yeah, and his best comparable on Player Profiler is DeAnthony Thomas, which is a guy who was so productive for fantasy.
So productive.
Yeah. Oh, and the one that I found looking at combine numbers was Ted Ginn.
Who actually did something, but it was ugly.
Well, I tried to go with known players. It was like Ted Ginn and 10 other people that I'd never heard of.
Okay.
So
Good hit rate there. 1 out of 11.
But that's how a lot of these guys are, I've noticed. When you look at, there's no combine profile that's necessarily telling of, hey, this guy is going to be successful. There's some that might have 4 or 5 guys. There's those others that may have 1 guy. There's others that may have nothing. So,
but you're looking for the guys that have multiple guys who have done it with this.
Right, and Ted Ginn was the only one.
All right, and that's enough about Kuti. Let's go ahead and move on to Jamon Moore out of Missouri.
These next 2 guys are actually somewhat intriguing to me.
Yeah, Jamon Moore.
More so much.
6.5 rating overall. He was an incredibly strong receiver with good size. I saw him just run people over on film, which is a lot of fun to see. Fortunately, that's more of a trait you generally want to see out of running backs than wide receivers.
Yeah, he had some pretty good combine numbers, too, aside from his 40. 6'5", 6'3" con was elite, 404 shuttle, 38 vertical. I mean, he kind of lit the combine on fire. His athletic comp was from the combine was the good Michael Thomas. He did have 60-plus receptions and 2,000-yard seasons in the last 2 years, similar productivity to Paul Richardson over a 2-year span. But he's got some agility and quickness up the field. His routes... pretty ankle breaking, actually. He's pretty good in his breaks and everything like that. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit of a dark horse that if I have the spots, I may, or a taxi squad spot that I can use without worrying about it or something like that. Maybe because athletically he's all right.
Let's go with some more positives here. 58% on its contested catch rate, good for 29th in the nation. Made 14. He forced 14 missed tackles on 66 catches. Pretty fucking good. I mean, it's not elite, but it's also only on 66 catches compared to other people who did 21 on 230. So pretty good there. He also finished. He graded out as the 4th highest receiver in the one-on-one drills in Senior Bowl camp week. So he at least shows some upside in beating press coverage.
So if you're looking for a guy in this range, or in a really deep rookie league, or a really deep dynasty league, or you've got really deep rosters, a lot of teams, something along those lines. He's one of the more intriguing players in this tier, along with the next guy we're going to talk about.
All right. Just for a few weaknesses, though, his college dominant rate was not good. Late breakout age. He's coming into the NFL over 23 years old by the time the season starts. So there's definitely some question marks there, but he has enough juice that he's at least a name I'm going to keep a real close eye on. And if he lands in any sort of situation where it's not a super crowded depth chart, and I think he might have a shot, he'll be a guy I'll be trying to stash as UDFA.
He had a 7.4% drop rate. He had 1 reception out of the slot. So his versatility in playing inside and outside isn't great. There's something he has to work on. He needs to be a little more aggressive in the run blocking game. And for a guy that's being drafted this late, you're going to need some of those smaller traits to stand out more like that.
I think he could do a better job at completing his routes, too.
Yeah, he does have a little bit of a lazy demeanor.
Fall off a little bit, a la Simi Cobbs, but not as bad.
Fuck Simi Cobbs.
Yeah, and he at least showed really good effort, and he was running people over. So he's definitely he was a lot of fun to watch. It was more of I didn't see enough versatility out of him, and I'm not sure how well he's going to translate to the NFL. That's the only reason he's down here for me.
And he also played in the air raid. He played in a Baylor-styled offense. So
yeah, Missouri
limited
runs
route trade, things like that.
It was mostly the quarterback stepping back and making a design throw every single play.
Yeah.
All right, on to Cedric Wilson out of Boise State. This was another guy in this tier that is actually somewhat interesting. What do you guys think of him?
I actually kind of liked him a lot. He had a lot of productivity. He, I believe, had over 101 yards per game as far as his per game receiving average, and was over 100 yards in 42% of his college games. So ultimately, he produced. He's got a little bit of a thin frame at 6'3", 188. Actually, a really thin frame. Athletically comp 2. How's this for a fun name? Bernard Berrien.
Oh, jeez.
I met him. I didn't technically meet him. I saw him at a bar once, and he just completely ignored every single person there.
Yeah.
So fuck him.
Okay. Yeah, but he has good acceleration, good hands. I thought he looked okay as a route runner. He handles the technical aspects of the position well. But again, thin frame, not a fantastic blocker. His landing spot's going to matter.
Hashtag landing spot matters.
Hashtag landing spot matters. But he was very productive at the college level. And at 6'3", 188, a 4.55 40, he is one of the better, larger receivers in this class as far as athleticism goes.
I mean, his uncle played in the pro, so at least he has some of that pedigree behind him in terms of that. He played a quarterback in high school. This was the guy that I got mixed up with what's his face from last episode. But he had a 35.5% college dominator rating. It's not massively impressive, but it's good for a guy who's still learning the position. So there is a lot of upside to him. I'm interested to see where he lands and what type of role he can get himself into.
He does have very short arms, which is a bit of a concern. He comes in just barely over 31 inches. His athletic profile is okay in terms of his combine metrics. So there's definitely some question marks about him. He's also only played wide receiver for 2 seasons.
At the major level.
Yep.
He played it at junior college, too.
I thought he played quarterback at a junior college.
He played quarterback in high school.
Okay.
And then when he went to junior college, he switched to receiver, and then he's played receiver since then. But only 2 years at the major level.
But he was super productive. Even if it was against lower level competition, he was very productive, and he looked like he was picking up on it pretty well.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely still needs to improve in things like body positioning, route running, and things like that. I saw some flashes of good play there, but I also saw some bad play there as well. And my other concern with him is he dropped a lot that I saw on tape.
What was his drop rate, Dan? Do you have that handy?
I do not. Keep moving on. I'll find it.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and go to another guy that I'm actually kind of a fan of here just because it's...
Here's a guy I'm not a fan of in the least bit at all.
All right, well, I saw some upside with him, and that's Corey Robertson out of Southern Miss. If you're not a fan of him, let's go ahead and kick it off for you.
So 6', 212. He profiled very similar to James Washington. Nobody that's been successful in the NFL, but James Washington was the other one. His best season was 76 receptions, just over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. That's in Conference USA. Other Conference USA receivers that there's only 2 of them that are even noteworthy at the NFL level: Justin Hardy and Dwayne Harris.
Oh, God.
So, yikes. He was a good tackle shedder. He was okay at the 50-50 ball, it looked like on tape, but his vertical is only 34 inches, so that's not exceptional, and I don't know how well it's going to play when he's not beating up on Conference USA cornerbacks. He needs some development, though, as far as his routes, his technicalities go, and everything. There's a little bit of raw talent there that showed up, but he definitely needs some development, and his combine was relatively meh.
Yeah, he definitely has some lack of athletic juice there, but he does show good hands. Actually, he was ripping balls away from cornerbacks, which I think was the biggest thing that stood out to me when I watched him, as he had that definitely my ball attitude to him that I really like to see. He doesn't show a lot of polish in his routes, which Hopper mentioned, which is definitely a concern, but he has a really impressive wingspan. He did show the dominator rating you're looking for out of a small school player.
42.3% or 42.3 rating.
Yep.
82nd
So
percentile.
you want to see that 40% plus if they're in a G5 conference as opposed to a Power 5 conference. So he's kind of an intriguing player for me. Down here, it's going to be, once again, landing spot matters. Does a team invest in him to give me the confidence that his leash won't be non-existent?
We'll see. And then back on Cedric Wilson, 4.4% drop rate as his college career. So pretty good.
Yeah.
Corey Robertson, 7.3 in 2017, but a 9.52 on catchable targets.
Ooh.
So needs to work on that hand.
Yeah, he's got some nuances that he needs to work on.
Okay, so Corey Robinson. Moving on to, I think, the player that I personally dislike the most, and I know as a show we were not big fans of, and that's Simmie Cobbs Jr. out of Indiana, who is getting a ton of hype before coming into the draft process. I think most people are starting to cool on him as well, because I'm not seeing him taken in many mocks or anything like that.
He's
but
fucking lazy.
And he's athletically not good. He's smaller and less athletic than Aitman, Tate, and Weineke. His best season was 60 receptions for just barely over 1,000 yards. He's got the NFL size. He's flashed some agility and some release. When he decides to run routes, he looks like he's okay at it, but he doesn't always decide to. He takes plays off, just looks disinterested. He's lazy on his routes from time to time.
he straight jogged them sometimes.
Yeah. Doesn't have a lot of top end speed in or out of his breaks. He's got a lot of he should have played at Baylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
callback to last year.
He also showed some major issues with just dropping or not securing balls when he should have. He was jogging on routes, wasn't blocking when he was supposed to. Just
If you want to watch a game where you want to fucking hate him afterwards, just watch this game against Wisconsin. Watch
Yeah.
like the first 3 or 4 plays they show, and you'll turn them off. That'll be the end of the fucking time you watch Simi Cubs. That's what I did.
yeah, for a guy who was going to be a possible day 2 receiver based on his profile, he completely bombed the combine, and then his tape shows just a complete lack of care for a guy who could have been a top 3 round player.
And when he does carry, he actually looks pretty good. I mean, he's a decent 50-50 winner. He's comfortable around the sidelines and in the red zone. He made a nice play against Denzel Ward when they played against Ohio State, which stood out to me. It's just, you don't have the draft capital that's going to make teams actually give a fuck if you care enough. You're not Randy Moss. You don't get this, I'm going to take off one play, throughout the game. No, you have to fucking try
You're
hard.
not the athletic comp. You don't have
Yeah.
the upside of that. You're going to have to try and you're going to have to work at it. And if not, you're going to bomb out of this league. And he does not show, at least on tape, any want to play hard.
Yeah, so I think his best game, if I remember it, was against Ohio State for tape.
Yeah, he actually had a ridiculously nice
Yeah,
play
he
against
had
Denzel Ward.
Really good tape against Ohio State. When he decides to play, you see flashes of it, but it's
Yep.
the combine was bad. The effort is bad.
That's the only reason why he's ranked at where I had him. I actually bumped him up because I had to sit down and actually watch, finish watching his tape as reluctant as I wanted to be.
All right, so enough about Simi Cobbs. I finished my comments with "fuck you, Simi Cobbs."
Yeah.
If he cared, he would easily be in the last episode.
Yeah, he just doesn't care.
Yep.
All right, on to Deontay Burnett out of USC. This is a guy who is built as a slot guy. The problem is he has literally zero top end speed.
Is he built? I thought he was like 5'8".
He's 5'11", 186.
Okay.
So
it's smaller-ish.
At his pro day popped off. So first off, him like Ronald Jones was still apparently running a pro day not 100%.
Yeah, the hamstring.
For whatever reason. They both had hamstring problems. He had popped off a 6.7 3-cone. It was which is okay for a 3-cone. A 6.7 is not terrible, but it was the 4.5, 4.6, and in some reports 4.7 40 time that was iffy.
I've been seeing 4.7 for him.
I saw 4.7. There was only one report I saw that said between mid 4.5 and low 4.6, and it wasn't from USC.
There's been a lot of controversy around between him and Ronald Jones's actual 40 time.
Yeah,
Like, just
so-
those times.
Toss that out. The closest comps, I mean, he had some Philip Dorsett and then Kevin Curtis
Kevin, wow.
Ooh.
Throwback.
to him a little bit, but he went 86 receptions, 1,114 yards, and 9 touchdowns without Juju. He is only 20 years old. In comparison, Juju's last season was 70 for 914 and 10 touchdowns at USC, so he did outproduce a little bit. He's very quick off the line and into his breaks. He looks agile with solid acceleration on his tape, prototypical slot size, and he looks like he plays tough. But
he does.
he has small hands. He had some bad drops and some fumble problems. Top end speed isn't great, and he is a little bit thin in the frame. So
I never saw him break something for long.
no, he plays tough over the middle. He was okay at actually catching the football. He's not a guy, though, that's going to do a lot of yak. He's a first down type of receiver.
There's one thing that stood out for me outside of having a 19.9 breakout age, but that's because he's also
He's also
extremely
only
young,
20. Yeah.
is that he had a very good drop rate, 2.67%. He only dropped 2 of his, I think, 72 catchable targets.
It must
last
have
year.
been the 2 I watched.
It is. No, trust me. I saw both of the drops. I'm like, okay, but he made a bunch of diving catches. He tries. A slot receiver his size that wants to work over the middle you will find a spot. It's whether or not you actually get a chance to play is another question. And there's plenty of slot receivers in this draft that are 5'11", 5'10", 6 foot that are bigger than him.
I don't think there's a player that I've been more hot and cold on than Deontay Burnett, because
Exactly.
I watched him the first time and I loved him. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see him being, coming into the league and producing and being an under-the-radar guy, a la what Juju was last year out of USC. And then I watched him again, and I was like, okay, maybe not. And then there's the injury. And then I went back and looked at his productivity and stuff, and I'm right back on the, okay, maybe he can. I'm so much, will he or won't he? Maybe he can or
He's
maybe
the
he
Katy
can't.
Perry of the draft.
Yeah.
It's time to start a new sitcom based on this concept.
Yeah. I want to like him, and then I don't want to like him, and then I want to like him. And I think ultimately I do, depending on landing spot.
It's like the fact that his pro day might make him not be drafted. Like that's how bad his pro day. I mean, look,
Well-
like this is a guy. This is a slot receiver that has to show some speed. His 3-cone is decent, but at 5'11", 183, how good of an agility score is that going to actually be at a 6'7"?
It's
3-cone.
6'7". It's Philip Dorsett, Kevin Curtis levels. Those are guys who have been at least regarded at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Because that's what that's based on. I tossed the 40 time out because I couldn't find, because one,
Yeah.
it allegedly wasn't 100%, and two, I couldn't find a consensus report. It was anywhere
Yeah.
from 4.5 to 4.7, so I tossed that out and went with that.
I don't hate his tape.
The shuttle time was okay, and I don't hate his tape. On his tape, he looks like he's about a high 4.4, low 4.5
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, I did not see that at all.
And if he was,
There's some plays. That
there
he
were
stood
some
out
plays
on.
where he looked like it, and
I
He
thought
stood out to me when I watched Darnold's tape. I was excited to watch him.
Realistically, it's probably low 4.5. And
When he's
I
healthy, yeah.
have some questions about their pro day times anyway, because you mentioned Ronald Jones, and this is a good point. He ran a 4.6 at the combine, and he pulled up halfway through because he tweaked his hamstring. And they're saying he ran what, a 4.7 at.
It was a
in his pro day?
4.56, 4.57 was there's two conflicting reports. It was USC's pro day on Twitter said he ran a 4.49, and then this I don't know who the fucking guy's name was with George Klein or whatever the hell his name is. Ran a 4.56, 4.57. He said that he clocked him at that. He was there, and that's what he clocked him in at.
I would say his stopwatch finger's a little low, because if you
That's a
because I
massive
watched him
difference.
at the combine, and he pulled up halfway through that run and still came in at a 4.6. So I just had some questions about whatever the pro day number was, and I thought he looked quicker than a 4.7 on tape. Talking
Yeah.
back on Burnett.
On Burnett, yeah.
I thought he was quicker than a 4.7 on tape, and I thought that he looks like he could be an adequate slot receiver, but I'm so hot and cold on him that I can't rake him high.
And I think just
he's-
because of this, just with the slew of slot receivers, and it just comes back down to it. There's, as we mentioned last episode, there's 32 teams here. Some of them already have
Decent slot receivers.
decent slot receivers, and there's wide receivers in this draft who didn't even play in the slot, who now have to probably shift over because of their size.
Yeah, there's
So
what?
it's
There's at least another 6 receivers we
I
take
feel
over
like
him
they're
in the
fucking
slot.
everywhere. They're like goddamn herpes in Vegas.
And there's a few guys who don't even project to the slot who could move. Like I could see Justin Watson being in the slot.
You got your bigger possession receivers, Jaleel Scott maybe,
Yeah.
Justin Watson,
So yeah,
Deshaun Hamilton.
It's ugly for him. But I saw him as more of a 4.55, 4.6 guy when I watched his tape.
He just needs a good agility score for a guy like him. He's like, you don't necessarily need top end speed. He can be like a satellite back in a wide receiver body.
No, his way to win is going to be he has to be Jarvis Landry.
He in some of the
Yeah.
nuances that he showed, the toughness and everything, are what I like to see out of slot
Exactly.
receivers. So that's why he's so internally polarizing for me.
He works over the middle as a guy his size. That's great for me.
He's very intriguing.
He's a guy I did drop a tier though, and we did get those pro day numbers. So if
I dropped him too. That's probably why he's down this low again.
See, I went up a little bit with him because of the agility score and because of I don't trust that 40 time. And
Yeah.
it's because it's one, the conflicting reports, two, I thought he looked faster on tape, and three, when you looked at what went on with Ronald Jones's 40 time and knowing that he pulled up halfway through at the combine and still ran a 4.6, and then there's a dude on Twitter saying he was, a tenth of a second slower than what USC clocked him at. There's just a lot around these pro days that I don't necessarily trust.
I'm just afraid that the NFL teams are gonna take it, whatever.
And we got to get going because this
Yeah.
laptop I'm reading notes on is going to die.
Okay. Well, on to Braxton Berrios.
I love him.
Comes in at 6.3. I was by far the lowest on him just due to
He's small.
How small and how kind of meh his athletic profile
He's a
was.
punt returner if he gets a chance. I just
He'll make a team. He'll be a punt returner.
Oh, at minimum, he will be, and he's super small, but he's got a 36-inch vertical, even though he has T-Rex arms.
28-inch arms.
6'7", 3 cone. So he did have a pec injury at his combine, which is why he didn't get numbers from that. These are pro day numbers.
Yeah.
4.40. So he athletically was fine. He was productive, 100 receptions, 11. Well, sorry, that was for his career. Never mind. His career was a good season for some, but it was also in Miami. So
I enjoyed watching his tape. This is another guy smaller guy, works over the middle, just fucking
tracks and adjusts well.
He'll break tackles. He'll be agile. He's this year's Ryan Switzer. He's probably more like Cole Beasley.
He's like a T-Rex wearing Jordans.
Yeah.
I mean, he profiles almost.
Switzer has the same size arms, and Beasley's is like 7/8 longer. So
the problem is the only time that these guys succeed as fantasy players is when
Opportunity.
they are the wide receiver one due to injury or something.
well, Cole Beasley was,
when Dez was injured.
even when Dez wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't that productive when Dez was hurt either, though.
Don't say what he was a wide receiver too when Dez was hurt.
Yeah.
And when Dez wasn't hurt, he's 4 at best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
So he needs to be the main target. So
I know that he won't be productive. I still like him.
I think he's
Just
going to
enjoy.
be. I think an NFL team is going to be real happy to have him. He'll make some real clutch catches from the slot here or there. He'll be a special teams guy.
Fantasy wise, though.
Fantasy wise,
No,
though, there's
fuck
nothing
no.
here.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
no.
He's a guy that I think we used the Brian Hartline comparison last year. That depending on where he lands, if there's an injury there or you have an injury, he might be worth a snag.
Yeah.
Like a la Adam Humphries a couple times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, he's a name that people within a few years will know him and recognize him and say, hey, Braxton Berrios, hey, if X receiver goes down on that team, he'll step into more snaps and you'll pick him up for a week or two.
Yep. Or he may be good enough week in and week out to where if the receiver goes down on your team and there's nobody on the waiver wire, you'll be like, okay, well, Berrios did not give me a 0.
Yeah. Or you're in bye week hell or something.
He caught 2 receptions for 12 yards.
Adam
He broke
Humphries.
3 tackles.
points.
Adam Humphries, 4 for 47. All right, cool, good.
Let's
Good
fucking
enough.
go.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
was desperate. It was good enough.
That's what she said.
All right. And then last receiver.
Just your way. Anyway, moving on.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Jester
Way.
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 I thought
Way.
it was Way.
Who the hell cares? This is the only time I'm going to say his name.
Yep.
All right. Justin Way. 6.3 overall.
Jester, because
Jester.
this is a joke.
So he's got good size, good straight line speed, solid vertical. He is a solid jump ball player, but beyond that, he's already over 23 years old. His agility is atrocious. Can't run routes, and he wasn't able to produce at the college level.
Yep.
So
I don't want to talk about him. I don't care about him.
too many red flags
Yep.
on kind of a meh overall.
We have one guy left that I actually care a little bit about.
Is that the first guy in tier 7?
Yes.
The massive upside swing?
Yes.
All right, well, let's get to tier 7. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, beer review before we do that.
Oh, right. Oh, God, I have to piss.
Beer review.
I'm about to go under the table.
I watched too much of. I tried too hard to watch Jester Way. I didn't even need to talk about him because I spent too much time watching his tape.
All right, what'd you guys think of Collective Arts Brewing?
It's like,
Ransack the Universe Hemisphere IPA.
to me, it's like a wheat ale fucked an IPA. Kind of. I get some of the weedy
Yeah, I can
flavors.
taste
At
the
the,
wheat.
there's definitely wheat notes at the beginning, and there's a little bit of hoppiness at the end.
And it's kind of got the half juiciness, like it's a East Coast and a New England fucked each other too.
That's exactly what it
There's
is.
a lot of fucking going on.
Yeah.
It sounds like
This is
I don't know where, but there is fucking
this is a
going
beer
on.
orgy.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a beer orgy.
It's a good old fashioned orgy.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's a can of bukkake.
Wait a minute.
That gets you drunk.
So, Limp Biscuit? You said bukkake party.
I just needed to break it up. I just needed to break
I'm not sure you want to play White Lightning after a Bukkake party.
Anything with white in it. Anyways.
So anyone who's listening to an episode, you got to enjoy that.
Wow. Okay.
Moving on.
I stepped right into that, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Up next is Marquez
Just come
Valdez Scantling out of South Florida.
Huge upside swing.
So this is a complete size speed freak. Showed great at the combine. He's built. He's the height you want. He's a prototypical outside wide receiver. The problem is he played at
drops
South Florida.
everything.
He's played at South Florida. Had drop issues. Doesn't really know how to run routes. Doesn't know how to position his body. Doesn't know how to read defenses.
22.9 breakout age.
Josh Malone and Aaron Dobson are the combine comps.
Aaron Dropson.
Yeah, Aaron Dobson. Exactly. Dobson's probably a really good comp for him, actually.
Yeah, he's this is a guy who has some amazing size to him. If you're in a league that drafts like 6 rounds of rookies in like a 12-team league, so you're getting 70-something prospects.
He's like the
deep.
6'12".
He ran a 4.3 740. He's absolutely the most athletic big receiver in this draft.
Yep. So a team is. I think he gets drafted just based on that 40 time.
Yeah, he just can't play wide receiver.
So it's going to be.
He's a big punt returner.
Yeah. Can a coach teach him how to play?
Yeah. Can somebody teach him how to play wide receiver?
Because the size and the speed is absolutely there for him, where he could turn into something. I guess he's kind of like Moritz Boringer from 2 years ago.
Oh, I want him to be a thing. Germany guy.
But yeah, just unfortunately, his tape was not nearly as good as his combine numbers were.
14.52% drop rate on
Holy
catchable targets.
I catch more balls than that.
And a 22.9 breakout. That's 4th percentile. He may get drafted because he's 6'4" and he ran a 4 sub 40. That's it.
Still better than Aitman.
Like if Al Davis was alive, 1st round pick.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all I want to talk about him.
Okay. 2 left. Let's
2 left.
Sorry, 2 and somebody I really don't give a flying fuck about.
No, it's
3.
It's
3.
3
oh,
left.
so you're right.
There's 3.
2 1/3 left.
Darren Carrington out of Utah. I tanked him just because he got himself kicked off of Oregon, which I didn't know was possible.
I just didn't like enough about him. I thought he was terrible on 50-50 balls. His positioning sucked. He didn't look NFL caliber. Showed some agility and burst, but had a decent first step. But ultimately, I do not think that he is worth a damn.
Yeah, he was pretty meh in most things. So he was like okay at hands, okay athleticism, okay route running, but nothing amazing.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, these are not guys we're recommending you pick up. We're recommending you draft these next 3.
These are just
Including
guys
Carrington.
that we're just going to talk about.
These are guys that if your team drafts them, you need to immediately start drinking.
And then drop
So yeah,
them.
even if it's 7th round.
Yeah, because they just wasted a 7th round pick.
And it's also so if people start hyping up the name for any reason, we give you a thorough review of
You're
them.
going to hear some hype. He had a 4.7% drop rate. Respectable. And this is in his career. He's okay in 50-50% or 50-50 situations. But
I didn't see it.
yeah,
But
I mean, like I said, it's like you get down this low.
stats are for losers.
The fact that he's been suspended multiple times, though.
Yep, he has
Like drinking issues. He failed the drug test.
Drinking issues.
Yep.
got a DUI.
A DUI. Yeah, and he failed the drug test.
Bump him up.
He's going to fit right
Let's
in
not
with
joke
it.
about that.
DUIs?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Well,
He's going to fit right in with Cincinnati.
And he's also going to be 24 before the draft. So it's a late breakout age, old, and off-field issues paired with a pretty profile.
His is 22 point.
speaking of Matt profiles, moving on to Cam Phillips.
Yeah, this was my meh receiver of the draft. He gets the meh sticker.
Yep.
Cam Phillips.
The mess sticker.
Decent frame. I didn't see anything that was terrible in his game, but he also did nothing good.
Nope. He looks not good outside. He can't block. He can't separate, but his hands are reliable enough, I guess.
2.7
Yeah.
drop rate.
Yeah. He has very reliable hands. A little bit of agility.
He made 40. He forced 40 missed tackles on 235 catches.
I love
Pretty
it
good.
when I say things and the stats back them up and I don't look dumb because I was just watching.
I got you,
tape
boo.
and
I got
didn't look
you.
at stats at all.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's-
but he-
I love PFF for this.
Stats are for losers.
The only selling points for him, for me, was he had a good breakout age and a good dominator rating, but the tape
But he doesn't return kicks.
doesn't return kicks.
He's too small to be 50-50 receiver. And he's another fucking slew of slot receiver. It's like my first one is another fucking slot receiver that didn't really play slot, but has to because he's too fucking small to play
Yep.
outside. That's him.
Yep.
And that's all I want to talk about him.
All right, and the last one who really isn't going to be a receiver in the NFL, and that is, but he is going to get drafted, I think.
He's going to be a kick returner.
Yep, and that's Quadri Henderson, who I think is probably the best kick returner in the draft. He's in our tier 8 because he's basically not a receiver. He's basically Trenton Holiday.
Yeah, he's going to be a kick returner.
So he's going to
He's-
get blindsided by a punter.
Pat McAfee back for one last show.
Yeah, he's fast, he's agile, he accelerates, but he sucks at wide receivering.
Yeah, his breakout age is non-existent because he never had a dominant relevant season.
I don't even know where my notes are on him.
You don't need him. It's fine.
I don't need him. It's probably
So,
a good thing.
I think he'll be a returner and occasional offensive weapon type player. That's his role in the NFL.
If he gets drafted.
I think he does get drafted because a team will be like, we need a kick returner. In fact, I could see him end up on.
Yeah, but you can pick one of these other receivers who can play punt returner and at least contribute playing receiver.
He was an elite kick returner, though. I think the Vikings might end up taking him because they're so desperate for a kick returner right now. But yeah, he's a guy who'll just be that. So if anyone tries to hype him up as an actual receiver, ignore them. They're wrong.
Didn't he also have more carries and receptions too?
He did.
He did.
Yeah, because he runs like a running back. That's what I put down. He runs like a running back in space. He's fun to watch when he return punts.
He's what, like 5'8" or something?
And
5'8".
he's tiny.
Pulling him up here.
I said he's like Curtis Samuel.
Except better in space.
Except better. Yeah. And the first play I watched, he fumbled it.
I
Like-
saw that too.
Yep.
Sorry. Nope.
So yeah, this is just the episode. Unfortunately, there's only 3 or 4 guys where we're even like, hey, we're kind of interested. But we wanted to go deep for you guys, make sure that any of these players that start getting hyped post-draft, we can at least have some commentary on them, and you guys will be familiar with the name.
Level them out a little bit.
You'll know more names after this episode.
We will.
Probably.
Well, our listeners will.
Our listeners
We
are gonna,
know way too many names.
Yeah, because there's names we didn't even get on here because they was just get them off here.
Shoot.
Looking at you, Byron Pringle.
Byron Bringle. Jesus.
All right, so that's it for this episode. Well, actually, should we get a rant in? You know you had something.
Yeah.
Beer fueled open mic.
This is the part where I start.
Yep.
You said you had the rant, so
I do have a rant, then you two can jump in after me. Redlining players in auction drafts.
He said he was going to do
I
this,
said I
Nick.
was going to do this, so here we go. First off, I get it. There's a strategy to not having your money tied up in somebody. There's a strategy to trying to push people over. But if you know I am willing to pay more for this guy than what they're worth, and if they get up to that point, I'm going to bid on them, and I really, really like them, don't wait until the last minute, because at that point, you're just being an asshole. You're just prolonging things in a slow auction style. You're keeping nominations off the board. You're making things go longer. And if you're going to redline a player, do it by more than $1.
Please.
Because at that point, you're just being a dick. If you know that you want somebody at the price that they're at, or for more than the price that they're at, and that you're willing to pay that for them, just bid on them.
Like, we understand you got some jobs, you got life. We all have jobs, we all have lives.
You may have had money tied up in another player that
Yep.
you got outbid on, so now you want to invest it elsewhere. There are circumstances where this is okay, but there are also circumstances where you're just being a douche.
Yeah.
as in if you're constantly doing it.
If you're doing it all the time, if you're telling people 14 hours beforehand, I am going to redline this player if they stay at this price. If your argument is, well, it took me 14 hours to decide if I wanted them, that is a bullshit argument. You know if you want somebody.
You are not a 16-year-old girl getting ready for her first date. Like, this is not something that takes 14 fucking hours to figure out.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I got.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off this. I want to go and touch on something that I've been running a league for 8 years, 8 years, Nick. You've been in something like that. And it's tough, especially when you're doing, a dynasty league and you got all these rules and shit to set up. You put in a lot of time and effort. I've been figuring out my own dynasty startup last year for 2 years trying to get it right. And I still fuck up. That doesn't mean when you join the league that you get to completely destroy everything that they put into roster settings, league settings, the way that it's drafted, however I add you, because it takes time to put this together. Give these guys the respect they deserve to actually put in the time to work on this. But on the other hand, as someone who does do this, listen to the other owners in the league. If you put in that time, you may have missed something. You may have put in a league rule that just doesn't tie up. I did this last year.
There could just be
Both
there could
Nick,
just be people that are trying to. Sorry,
Yeah,
there
you're
could
good.
just be people that are trying to let you know of if you haven't done this style before, this
Yeah.
is what you can expect because maybe they've done that style before, and it may sound fun or like it's going to work out, but there may be some unintended consequences.
Yep, and just be flexible with that. I mean, like I know like I said, I keep saying that I've done this, and I've put in this, this amount of time. I know that it gets stressful when somebody keeps tearing down the work that you just put into it. But also at the same end, you want to be respectful, to these guys that actually put in the work, because you joined their league, you knew their league settings. So that's just my rant. It was a little bit of a piggyback off of the redlining, but as you can tell, we've dealt with this recently.
Yep.
Yeah. So shout out to Travis Rasmussen and a bunch of other people who
John and
It
those
was
guys.
John Hogan, James,
Your work
I
does
believe, were
not
the three.
Your work does not go unappreciated.
No,
at
you
all.
guys did a good job putting this together. We're happy to be a part of this 2 tight end Superplex
Every
Dynasty
single-
League,
16
team Dynasty League. That's going to be awesome for depth. It's going to be awesome to participate in. But
No
we just wanted
kickers,
to
no
throw
defense.
some cautionary stuff out to other people that are joining Dynasty Leagues and some kind of rules of the tape. I mean, there's etiquette to follow.
Oh, and if you're getting itchy for fantasy football, join a startup draft right now. It's a great time to kind of get involved with that.
Yep.
Yeah, Dynasty Leagues are a lot of fun.
All right. And
They're
then
my favorite.
the one rant I wanted to do is people just hammering people's what rookie rankings or any rankings they're putting on there because they have one particular player way out of order who's generally considered like a consensus top. It's one thing if they're doing it for like hot take purposes and you see them do it with like multiple players, but if there's just one player they don't like, don't go off on them. I've seen that a ton of people calling out our guest on Monday's episode, Dynasty Guru FF, because his PSI metrics don't rank Calvin Ridley very well. They have him, I believe, at wide receiver 15.
Yep.
And I've seen multiple people call him out for that, saying that it's invalid because Calvin Ridley's that low.
I want to see you put together the same work that he puts together.
That he puts into that. And,
Yeah.
and there's different ways to rank people. His are based on a bunch of advanced metrics, and he's had some success with it. We will rank a lot based on tape, and then we fold in some college productivity and some combine numbers, and there's different systems that are going to project different people well. And ultimately speaking, you don't know a fucking thing. We don't either.
Yeah,
Nobody knows
You
anything
have no
until it
fucking
happens.
clue. These guys may be the next Jeremy
Everything's
McNichols.
a
You don't
best
know.
guess, and you got people that put a lot of work into this stuff, be it constructing and working the numbers or watching hours upon hours of film. There are different things that people are going to like about different people. I rib Nick all the time about liking spark score, or liking age and athletic upside. There's certain things he puts into people more so than I put into people, and there's different ways of doing things. There's different ways of ranking things, and each have their own strengths and weaknesses.
And no one's right or wrong because we have no fucking clue how these rankings are going to look in 2 to 3 years.
Nope, you don't get bragging rights until about 3 years out from that draft.
And then the other big thing, too, is also look at what the person is ranking, because PSI is a very, very specific metric. If you haven't listened, go back and check out Monday's episode for that, where it's looking at some very, very specific metrics, which correlate highly to people being successful in the NFL if they hit those numbers. Mm-hmm. But
There's outliers like everything else.
yes, but the thing is, a lot of the things people like about Ridley are not things that are going to show up in those particular metrics. So if you're a fan of Ridley, you can like Ridley and have it being conflicting with those PSI numbers. I personally don't like Ridley. I've got him down close to about wide receiver 8 or 9 myself.
I've got him at 5, which is still lower than most people have him.
Same here.
So that's just one of those situations, though, where if that's what you really like about him is kind of between the ears situation where he understands route running, knows how to read defenses, things like that. Those don't necessarily show up in PSI numbers, so you can
If you
look at
highly
those.
invest in draft capital.
And if you really like, if you still really like Ridley, that's fine. Just go out and draft him. It's your team.
And there
Yeah.
are ways to respectfully disagree without ripping down somebody's work.
All right. So that's all I wanted to get into this episode. Thank you so much for checking in. We are done with wide receivers. We've got 2 more episodes left in draft season.
We have a live episode.
We'll go through tight ends on Monday and Wednesday next week, and then Thursday we'll be live on the YouTube channel, Beer Fueled Fantasy Football, drinking and talking first round of the NFL draft, and then it'll be 4 episodes of that for the podcast where we cover post-draft coverage. I think the plan is to get a guest on every single episode for that.
Yeah,
Let's hope so.
I'm down with that. I hope so.
And then, so with that, that's all we got for you guys this time. We are at Beer Fueled FF on Twitter. Please follow us there if you guys want to keep up on what we are up to. Individually, across the table from me, we've got Dan Thury.
At Thury BFF.
To my left is Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF.
I am at Nick Sparts. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We will catch you next time on Beer Fueled Fantasy Football.
Peace.
Later.
With 2 Ps.